Winning an argument isn't about proving you're right. It's about knowing how to communicate strategically. After losing plenty of debates myself, I discovered 10 powerful methods to dominate any discussion. And to make it simple, I ranked them in a tier list so you know which ones really work. Method 1. The judo approach. Here's a fact. In any argument, your opponent will attack. Sometimes you, sometimes your ideas. Most discussions follow a predictable pattern. You make a point, they counter it. But here's the trick. You can use their energy instead of just clashing head on. Think of it like judo. A judoka doesn't push back blindly. They redirect their opponent's force. You can do the same in a conversation. When someone throws a verbal punch, pause, take it in, and respond strategically. Sometimes, simply acknowledging a point or conceding a small part can completely shift the dynamic. You might say, "I see what you in here, and I'd like to challenge another part of that." Admitting when they're right isn't weakness. It shows confidence and makes your stronger points hit harder. It also surprises them because most people expect constant resistance. That little unexpected concession slows their momentum and gives you control over the flow of the conversation. Mirror their tone or phrasing just a little. It makes them feel you're listening. Ask questions about their argument, like, "Can you explain that part again?" This makes them clarify their position and often reveals small contradictions or weak spots in their reasoning. Pausing strategically is another tool. Don't rush to respond the moment they finish talking. A short pause gives their words more weight and lets you plan your answer. It also makes you appear calm and collected while they may start second-guessing themselves. Tier C. It builds trust but doesn't give full control. Method 2. The Socratic method. Socrates actually used this method centuries ago to reveal contradictions and get people to question their own beliefs. The key isn't to jump into a heated argument or try to prove them wrong right away. It's about guiding them so they notice the gaps or flaws in their thinking themselves. That way, they feel like they've come to the realization rather than being told what's wrong. You could ask something like, "If being good in school guarantees a good job, does that mean high grades automatically make someone competent? Aren't there other skills that matter too?" Notice how it doesn't attack the person. It focuses on the idea. It makes them pause, think, and reflect, rather than getting defensive. You can take it a step further by layering your questions. Start broad, then gradually zoom in on specifics. So good grades are important. But what about teamwork or creativity? Could someone with average grades but strong teamwork succeed just as well? This method works because it taps into a natural desire to appear logical and consistent. People generally want their ideas to make sense. By asking thoughtful, guiding questions, you subtly lead them to see where their reasoning falls apart, without turning the conversation into a confrontation. It's subtle, smart, and surprisingly effective. And the best part? It doesn't require you to raise your voice or get aggressive. You simply let curiosity and logic do the work for you. Tier B. Solid strategy gets results, but takes patience. The contrast effect. Imagine you're in a debate or negotiation with someone who strongly disagrees with you. Here's a neat psychological trick. If you begin by presenting an extreme or exaggerated position, anything you suggest afterward will automatically seem much more reasonable in comparison. For example, in a salary discussion, if you first suggest a number way above what you actually expect, then offer your real target, it will look moderate and fair, even if it's higher than the other person initially expected. The contrast effect works because our brains instinctively compare options. By controlling the first impression, or starting point, you guide how your ideas are judged. This method is especially useful in negotiations, compromises, or situations where you want to nudge someone toward a middle ground without triggering resistance. That said, it's not a tool for complete control. It's more about framing and perception than forcing agreement. Tier C. Useful for nudging perspectives, but limited in direct influence. Information bombing. Overwhelm them with a flood of facts, numbers, and stats, and watch them start questioning their own position. Have you thought about the 20% failure rate, the latest market data, and feedback from experts? When you hit them with too much at once, they can't address every point. Suddenly, it feels like you're running the debate. Tier B. Powerful, but can be dense if overused. Method 6. Gish Gallop. This is like information bombing, but with a twist. Some points can be half-truths or even false. This follows Brandolini's law, which says, it takes more energy to debunk nonsense than to make it. If someone uses a Gish Gallop on you, don't try to refute everything. Instead, call out the strategy and then focus on dismantling their weakest claim. Tier B. Effective, but using false info can hurt your credibility. Method 7. Change of focus. When you feel the debate slipping away, throw in a distraction to shift attention from the main point. This classic tactic, popularized by William Cobbett in 1807, often uses logical fallacies to disorient your opponent. It's perfect for buying time and regaining control. Tier A. Excellent for tactical advantage. Method 8. Coherence principle. Humans naturally like to stay consistent with their previous statements and beliefs. You can use this tendency to your advantage in a discussion or debate. Start by getting your opponent to agree on a small, non-controversial point. Once they commit, you can gently guide them toward larger, more significant ideas. For example, if we both agree that teamwork is essential for success, then it makes sense to consider strategies that improve collaboration, right? This works because people feel uncomfortable contradicting themselves. Once they've accepted a minor point, they're more likely to follow the logical path that flows from it instead of backtracking. Even in situations where someone strongly disagrees with you overall, starting with small agreements builds trust and opens the door to influence. The key is to pick points that feel natural to agree with. Forcing agreement too early can make the technique backfire. Tip: combine this with "I feel" statements or rhetorical questions to make it feel collaborative rather than manipulative. For instance, I feel like we both want better outcomes. If we agree that communication is important, then improving our process might be the next step. Don't you think? Tier B. Subtle and persuasive, especially when leading someone toward larger conclusions. Method 9. Rule of 3. Humans perceive things in threes as complete and easy to understand. One example feels random, 2 might be coincidence, but 3 creates a pattern we believe in. So when explaining something, give 3 reasons, 3 points, or 3 examples. It adds structure, clarity, and makes your argument far more persuasive. Tier A. Simple, yet extremely powerful. Method 10. Lightning fast jokes. Quick, sharp jokes can throw off your opponent or shut down their argument instantly. A perfectly timed quip exploits a vulnerable moment, flipping the discussion in your favor. The key is short, punchy one-liners, delivered at the right moment. They don't guarantee a debate win, but they raise your presence and authority in the conversation. Tier C. Great for style points and psychological edge.